All right, so today we're diving deep, really deep into Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men.
Yeah, it's a classic for a reason, right?
Absolutely. It's one of those stories that just sticks with you no matter how much time has passed. And today we're going to find out why that is.
It's amazing how much Steinbeck packs into such a short book.
I know, right? Every sentence, every word just seems to carry so much weight.
Exactly. And even just looking at little snippets, key scenes, you can uncover some really profound themes.
Okay, so let's jump right in. We start in 1930s California, right in the thick of the Depression. Steinbeck drops us right onto the banks of the Salinas River. Remember how he describes it?
Oh, yeah, it's almost like a paradise, right?
Yeah. Right. He talks about the willows fresh and green with every spring, sycamores leaning out over the water, even animal tracks in the soft earth. He really paints a picture,
Yeah.
but it's almost like deceptively idyllic. What do you think?
Yeah, because he's setting the scene, right? He gives us this almost dreamlike quality, but then, bam, right there, clinging to those willows, is the debris, the wreckage from winter flooding.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a great point. It's like that one detail just shatters the illusion. And it reminds us this is the Depression. Times are hard. Life is hard.
Exactly. Hardship is woven into the very fabric of the setting. And we haven't even met the characters yet.
And speaking of characters, enter George and Lennie. They come walking along that sun-drenched path, and Steinbeck really wants us to get a good look at them because he spends so much time describing them, their clothes, their bodies, how they even walk.
And it's all important, right? Because it tells us so much about who they are.
Right. Like George. He's small and quick, dark of face, with restless eyes. He just seems so full of nervous energy.
Uh-huh.
Lennie's the total opposite, though. Huge, kind of shapeless. He drags his feet, Steinbeck says, like a bear drags his paws.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like their physical descriptions are setting up the dynamic of their relationship, you know?
Oh, absolutely. You said it earlier, Steinbeck. He's very deliberate with his words. So when he uses these stark contrasts, he's hinting at their personalities and all the challenges they're going to face.
It's like he's giving us a sneak peek at their inner lives, just through their outward appearances.
And don't forget, contrast often leads to conflict.
Which of Mice and Men has in spades, right? But before we get ahead of ourselves, I want to go back to Lennie for a second. There's something so incredibly endearing about him, this almost childlike innocence. And it really comes through in his fascination with soft things.
Oh, yeah, the rabbits, the mice.
Right. It's more than just a quirk, though. It speaks to this deeper need, I think, this yearning for comfort, for connection, even security. Like when he says, and you can practically hear the longing in his voice, I could pet it with my thumb.
And that ties into their shared dream, right? Owning a farm, that classic American dream. Lennie puts it so simply, he just wants to live off the fat of the land.
And during the Depression, this dream wasn't just some far-off fantasy, was it?
Not at all. It represented hope, you know. It was a beacon in the darkness for so many people struggling just to survive.
But even with that hope, there's this underlying sense of fragility to their dream, isn't there?
Definitely. It's like their past is always right there, casting a shadow over their future.
And then we hear about weed and that incident with the girl in the red dress.
Yeah. Steinbeck doesn't come right out and tell us everything, but it's clear that Lennie's innocence, that pureness of heart, can sometimes have unintended, even dangerous consequences.
It's like this ticking time bomb, and it makes you wonder, what's going to happen when they get to the ranch?
Oh, the ranch. That's a whole other can of worms, isn't it?
Oh, man, the ranch. It's like Steinbeck drops George and Lennie right into the frying pan, you know, and then he starts turning up the heat.
It's true. You meet the other characters and you realize nobody's got it easy here. Not even close.
Exactly. And Steinbeck is so good at introducing these characters. He doesn't need a lot of words, but the details he gives us are just so telling.
Like with Curly, right? The boss's son.
Ugh, Curly. I can practically smell the trouble radiating off of him.
Well, remember how Steinbeck describes him? He says he wore a work glove on his left hand, but his right hand was bare, and on that hand was a glove full of Vaseline.
A glove full Vaseline.
Yeah, you don't forget a detail like that. It's almost like a physical representation of his personality, isn't it? Like he's trying so hard to prove he's tough, but there's this weird softness underneath.
Totally. And the way he circles Lennie, like a dog that's not sure if it wants to fight or run away, you just know those two are going to butt heads.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's Curly's wife.
Yes. The one character Steinbeck never gives an actual name to. Which is so interesting, right? It's like she's trapped by her circumstances, defined only by her role as Curly's wife.
Exactly. And the way he describes her, there's this real sense of I don't know, almost like a caged bird. She's got those full rouged lips, and her fingernails were red, but she's stuck wearing a cotton house dress and those red mules.
It's like she's trying to hold on to some shred of her own identity in this really oppressive environment. And George sees it too, remember. He warns Lennie, don't even look at that glove she got on her hand. He knows she's trouble.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah.
And part of that is on Curly, right? He's so insecure, so controlling.
And then that just pushes her further away, makes her even lonelier.
And loneliness can be a dangerous thing, especially when you mix it with someone as vulnerable as Lennie.
Oh, absolutely. It's like all these characters are carrying around their own little tragedies, you know? Their own broken dreams.
Yeah, and then there's Slim.
Slim. Now he's a whole different story, isn't he?
Total opposite of Curly. He doesn't need to throw his weight around.
He's like the moral compass of the ranch, wouldn't you say? He just carries himself with this quiet strength. Steinbeck says he moved with a majesty only achieved by royalty and master craftsmen.
It's true. Everyone respects Slim. Even Curly seems a little afraid of him.
Which says a lot.
And I think Slim is the only one who truly understands George and Lennie's dream. He sees their humanity, the decency in them. He doesn't dismiss them like the others.
Right, and that's important because for George and Lennie, the ranch represents a chance, however slim, of achieving that dream, of finding a place where they belong.
But belonging, acceptance, that's a complicated thing on this ranch, especially if you're not like everyone else.
You're talking about Crooks, right, the stable buck.
Yeah, he's such a tragic figure, isolated because of his race, forced to live alone in the harness room. He doesn't even get to dream with the other guys in the bunkhouse.
It's like Steinbeck is saying, look, this dream you're chasing, it might not be for everyone. He's forcing us to confront the ugliness, the prejudice that existed then, and let's be honest, still exists today.
And it adds this whole other layer of tragedy to the story, doesn't it?
It really does. And as the story goes on, that sense of impending doom, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger.
The tension just builds and builds.
Like something's got to give.
And it all comes crashing down literally in the barn.
It's almost claustrophobic, isn't it? The way Steinbeck traps us in that barn with Lennie.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can practically feel the walls closing in. Lennie's alone. He's scared. He knows he's messed up bad.
That poor puppy. He was just trying to be quiet, trying to keep his promise to George.
And that's the tragedy of Lennie, isn't it? He never intends to cause harm, but he just doesn't understand his own strength.
Like when he's petting those rabbits in his mind, he doesn't realize he's actually crushing them.
Exactly. It's all tied to that innocence, that childlike naivete that makes him so endearing, but also so incredibly vulnerable.
And it's that vulnerability that makes what happens with Curly's wife so inevitable.
She walks into that barn looking for attention, for someone to see her, to talk to her. And in Lennie, he's desperate for comfort, for someone to reassure him that everything will be all right.
But it all goes wrong so quickly.
Doesn't it? It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You see it coming, but you're powerless to stop it.
And I think that's what makes the ending so powerful, so gut-wrenching. Because even though we know Lennie is capable of hurting someone, even though we see it happen, Steinbeck still makes us care about him.
Right. We're rooting for him, even when he makes those terrible mistakes. And that makes George's decision, that final act of mercy.
Oh, man.
It just destroys you. But in a way, you understand, don't you? Because Steinbeck has shown us the alternative. He's shown us the cruelty that men like Curly are capable of.
That mob mentality, the thirst for revenge, it's terrifying.
And George, he knows there's only one way to protect Lennie from that, to give him a painless death, a final moment of peace. And he does it in the only way he knows how, by telling him about the dream.
That image of them by the river, with George describing the rabbits, the alfalfa, it's almost too much to bear.
It's heartbreaking. But it's also a testament to the power of their bond, wouldn't you say? That even in death, George wants to give Lennie that sliver of hope, that glimpse of a better life.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what makes Steinbeck such a master storyteller. He is shy away from the tough questions, the uncomfortable truths about humanity.
He makes us think, doesn't he? About friendship, about loyalty, about the choices we make when faced with impossible odds.
And he doesn't give us easy answers either. He leaves us grappling with those questions, wondering what we would have done in George's shoes.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Of Mice and Men, think about this. Was there another way out for George and Lennie? Could their dream have survived in such a harsh and unforgiving world? Let us know what you think.